Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday night team training. I'm Whitney Small, Gold Ambassador with Plexus Worldwide.
I'm Jason Small, Silver Ambassador with Plexus Worldwide.
And we also have Denise Foxworthy on with us.
Hi.
All right, so tonight we are going to be talking about follow-up. And we say it a lot. We say follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. We say the fortune is in the follow-up. And I can tell you 110% that is accurate. Following up is the most important thing that you could do to get your business going and to keep it moving in the right direction. So Denise, Jason, and I have all gathered together some tips tonight, and we're going to share them with you. And they're all going to be about follow-up. So Denise is going to start off with a couple of tips, and then we'll kind of take turns sharing other tips from us as well.
Okay. Well, I'm Denise Foxworthy, and I'm a Gold Ambassador with Plexus. And I'm going to start out with a few statistics. Now, usually when you think of statistics, if you're like me, you're like, ooh, boring. But these are good. This is good information to have because it gives you a little ammunition on what you're up against and how you can move forward with this. 48% of people of network marketers never follow up with a prospect. They contact them one time and they never follow up. That's almost half. 25%, only 25% make a second contact, 12% make a third contact, and 10% or less make more than 3 contacts. That's where you're going to get successful in the business, is the people that are making more than 3 contacts with that person. The other statistic that I had kind of goes along with that, where 2% of the sales are made after the first contact. So the first time you contact someone, it only 2% of the time where people are going to say, oh yes, I want to buy your product, sign me up, or let's go for it. Only 2%, which is extremely low. 3% of the sales are made after the second contact. 5% of sales are made after the third contact, and 10% are made after the fourth contact. So you can see the percentages are really low for the first, second, third, and fourth contact. In other words, the first, second, third follow-up after you've talked to them. 80% of sales are made after the 5th through the 12th time you follow up with a person. So it really pays to keep on checking in with them, and we're going to give you some tips tonight on how to do that in a way where you're not bugging them, but you're doing it in an intentional, friendly way. So keep those statistics in mind as we're talking about this. I want to talk about initial contact. When you contact a person for the first time about Plexus, we've had, our group has been in some training recently about how to do that, how to make initial contacts. But we're going to talk about follow-up tonight. So after the initial contact, you're going to want to get to know them about their health goals. And so one of the things you can make your follow-up about is asking them specific questions and helping you get to know what their health goals are, what their, if it's financial goals or something that, why they want to pursue or why you think they would be good at pursuing Plexus for health or for financial reasons. Find out what their health goals are, and then target in on things that might be able to help them in that area. Send them some info. Good follow-up, it would be to maybe find a video that talks about, an issue that they talked about. Say they're having issues with diverticulitis or fibromyalgia or even diabetes. We have several videos out there. You can do searches for them that can help you with that. Also, links to other testimonies are on. You can find those through Facebook, and if you can't find those, you can check with your sponsor, and she or he can help you locate those in an easy manner. Follow up, and when you follow up in the contact with a question, it's usually good to ask a question at the end instead of saying, hey, let me know if you're interested, or that kind of thing, because usually most of the time you're not going to get a response from that. But if you ask a question like, was that video that I sent you helpful on answering any questions you might have concerning Plexus and, diabetes, or, is there a time when we can get together and chat over coffee about some of the things that I sent you? Ask a question. You can ask a simple question. Usually I wait about a week before following up again. That's usually you can kind of play it by ear with the person, because if they're tallying back and forth with lots of questions, then obviously you're not going to wait a week to follow up with them. You want to be on it. But if you're not hearing from them, if they're not responding, then wait a week and then get back with them. Be intentional about your follow-ups. Call them on the phone if you have to. I think sometimes talking on the phone is a lot easier because they can hear your voice, they can hear the excitement of what you're talking about as far as the products and about what our company represents and how those products have helped you personally, and maybe a friend or two if they have some of the same issues that they're going through. So they're hearing that excitement and that enthusiasm in your voice, and that's very helpful. Plus, I also too think that's a good connection. Now, I'm finding that people my age prefer talking on the phone rather than texting. People with more Whitney's and Amy's age like to text and do the messaging. So you kind of have to find the right niche. If Whitney was reaching out to a person that was my age, 50 something, she might want to consider, hey, can I pick up the phone and give you, chat on the phone with you? Even though that might not be within her comfort zone, you have to consider the person that you're reaching out to and what their comfort zone is and where, they're most likely to open up to you. Also, I have found, because a lot of my customers and a lot of my potential customers are closer to my age, they're not tech savvy as, some of the younger people and some of the people who spend a lot of time on computers and stuff are. So a lot of times they're hesitant on how to place an order or how to get around the computer. So one of the things that I do is I just ask them, is that helpful to you if I help you? And a lot of times they'll say yes. They'll either get on the phone with me and give me the information, and I'll just, walk through the process over the phone. Even I've done that with having them sign up as an ambassador also. Or they can just send it to you in a text or a message, and you can, sign them up or place an order for them and do it very quickly. And they appreciate that because it's one thing that they don't have to worry about. We talked about a little bit earlier about sending them a link on a testimonial or something. There's lots of Diamond documentaries out there that are specific to different things about career choices. Like there's ones for teachers and nurses and people that have their lives have changed because of Plexus. And so if you can find a Diamond documentary that speaks to them or someone that that you have a personal contact with, say we know Brenda Martin. We've been in contact with her. We said hi. We said hi to her and talked to her at length at different functions for Plexus. So we know who Brenda Martin is. So to send her Diamond documentary to someone and say, we know Brenda. I mean, it's true. We do. We spent time with her and talked to her. That is a connection that we have, and it does mean something to the person that you're following up with. If you say, this is someone that I know personally, and this is a great testimony. And you don't have to know that person to do that, but it's fun to send a testimony or a Diamond documentary to someone that has something that they can identify with. Look at my note here real quick. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was keeping a log for contacts and follow-ups. This way you don't miss people. I know sometimes when things get a little hectic, especially if it's around holiday time or, busy summer, sometimes, we'll make a contact, and if we don't, if we think we're going to remember, and then 2 or 3 weeks pass by and we haven't followed up with them. And sometimes even longer. I actually have gone through my messages on my Facebook and looked to see when I've last talked to someone, and it kind of surprised the fact that, several months have gone by, and I thought I need to reach out to them again and see where they're at. So I've been more intentional lately about keeping a log of my contacts and then my follow-ups with those contacts. And that can look like different things to different people. I know Jason, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this briefly, and Jason showed us that, he uses a spreadsheet. I use my planner, which has a calendar in it. Some people use index cards and an index card file. You can use, whatever works for you. You can just a piece of paper that you hang on your refrigerator. Whatever works for you in the best way that it's going to work. That's what you should do. But you need to keep track. Note who you contact and when you contact them, and then their response. And usually if you don't get a response, I usually put that too, because that tells me, what I need to do. And I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit, what I need to do to follow up with them. Here's a couple tips on following up in a certain time frame. If you send someone a 3-day trial, or if they order a 3-day trial, I would follow up within a couple days, because they're taking the products for at least 1 or 2 days. You want to check in with them and see how things are going and see if they're excited enough about that to place an order. A new customer, a couple days after they've received their products and start on them, and then I would say about 3 weeks in, I would follow up again with them. Now, obviously, these are not set in stone. You kind of have to gauge how it works with your people, but these are just kind of like guidelines that might help you. A new ambassador, I would follow up within 48 hours of them receiving their welcome pack, and then at that follow-up, I would actually talk to them about planning a training, either at that time, if they have time, or within a week, because you want to get them introduced to their back office and briefly go over the success kit, and maybe set up another time when it depends on, if they want to run with the business, or if they're deciding just to be a personal use ambassador for right now. You can kind of gauge on how you train them, or how much you introduce to them at once. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is, what if people don't respond to you? What if you reach out to people and they don't respond to you? How do you follow up with that? Usually the reasons often that people don't respond, and this isn't always the case, but most of the time the reasons are because maybe we're too salesy, or we are talking too much about Plexus. We use too many words. And I have actually looked over old posts of mine to kind of critique how that is. And it's kind of true, because, I just jumped in and said, hey, I want to tell you about Plexus, and I want to tell you what it's done for me, and gut health, and blood sugar, and, and it's like, whoa. So I have critiqued my own stuff and realized that, I can kind of change that up. We get feedback from them by getting to know them, being intentional about that, finding out what their needs are, engaging them in a conversation that is outside of Plexus, asking questions. Sometimes I'll ask people, how are you doing health-wise? Especially if I've known someone is going through something. They've been in the hospital, or maybe they've had a loved one that's dealing with some health issues, and I'll ask them how their health is doing, because a lot of times taking care of another person that's dealing with some hardcore health issues can be taxing on you. So I'll ask them those. Get them talking about themselves. People like to talk about themselves. So ask them questions and get a conversation going back and forth. Ask them if they can do you a favor. Let them know that you would love to hear their feedback, and say, there's no pressure. I'm just reaching out to you because I value your opinion, and I'd love to hear your feedback on what you think about these products, or what you think about, how they might help you. And ask open-ended questions, not questions that, they can answer yes or no, because that usually or the no questions obviously will stall the conversation completely. So you want to ask an open-ended question where they would have to give you a couple sentences in reply, because that's the best way to keep the conversation going and engage them further. So that's all I had. I think Jason's going to share a few tips with us too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. So Denise actually said something that I had not written down that I wanted to expound upon. She said for folks who do trials or samples, check in a day or two, I would encourage you to do what I call, and I just called it the last 5 minutes, preemptive follow-up. So we all know if somebody gets a single packet of Slim, a 3-day sample, or even a 7-day trial pack, the chances of them experiencing the life-changing results the rest of us have seen isn't very likely, right? They may feel some things, maybe, but not the depth of what we have experienced. Lay that expectation out to them. Say, hey, this 3-day sample, you're probably not going to feel a whole lot. What you maybe might experience is a little more energy, better appetite control, whatever it is, so that their expectations of what they're getting out of this sample are level, they're realistic. They see us all talking about how great Plexus is. They get a 7-day sample and they haven't lost 40 pounds. They're going to be like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. What are you doing? So I've done that before. I've told literally, hey, this is what I experienced. Asked Denise. She almost lost me as a customer because it took me 6 weeks to experience the results. And okay, back to what I was going to say. So when you're talking with somebody and you're having a conversation with them, like, yeah, I'm kind of ask them what, from a scale of 1 to 10, how interested they are in Plexus, whether it's the business, the products, whatever it is. And that can kind of gauge your follow-up frequency, how soon. And it also opens up a question. So say somebody's a 6. That's pretty good, actually. Say, hey, what can I do, or what is holding you back from being a 9 or a 10? If somebody's a 1, one's a good thing. That means they're not completely opposed to it. 1's okay, I'll follow. And then that also opens it up to ask permission to follow up when you're talking with people. Hey, Amy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm not really interested right now. Hey, is it okay if I follow up with you in about a month? Yeah, that's fine. Because then you're not like, oh, no, should I message them? Am I annoying them? Oh, golly gee, what do I do? You've already set the standard that, hey, I'm going to follow back up with you. They know that. They expect it. So when you do it, they're not going to be like, oh, my gosh. And guess what? You might follow up one time and be like, hey, I've been looking forward to you messaging me because I'm ready to try it now. So ask permission to follow up, 7, and put a timeline with it. And another thing I would say follow up with, that a lot of times when we talk about follow up, it doesn't really follow up with your current customers. Because guess what? All your customers you have right now are potential future customers, right? It's not guaranteed that the people we have that are active, that purchased last month, will necessarily purchase this month, right? You want to follow up with them, and Denise touched on that. You say, how's it going? What are you experiencing? What are your barriers? How can I help? Using those open-ended questions. So,
and the one thing is, and I'm sure we've all experienced it, you won't always get a reply when you're following up, but that doesn't mean you stop following up. I mean, a lot of times no news is good news, and people are happy with the products, and when they're hitting some kind of a roadblock or a plateau, they will reach out to you. But you definitely want to keep those lines of communication open so that they know that you're there whenever they do need you.
I have an ambassador, personal use ambassador, that I think, because when she first ordered was wearing the back office debacle. So January, maybe she's been an ambassador. I have followed up with her every single month. Every single month, I have not gotten a reply once we got our order situated. She's still backup orders turned on, still getting her stuff. So, I mean, if she's disappointed in it or not happy with it, most of us human beings are pretty good at vocalizing when we're not happy with something. So, like Whitney said, if they're not responding, they're probably okay. But like Whitney said, you just keep following up. One thing, sorry, this popped in my mind, and I'll let you talk. Brenda Martin one time shared with me, or she didn't share with me, shared publicly, said something, and I thought it was really good. And I think it's probably because it applied to me and Whitney, right? With Benny and Delaney, when they were young babies, we kept taking care of them and doing things for them, right? And they never necessarily gave us any feedback and said, yeah, this is good, this is bad, right? They just pooped and ate and cried. But we continued to do what we did. We continued to do what they did. And now Delaney's turned into a little biased, but a pretty good little young girl, sweet, you know what I mean? So that Denise's point was, you keep following up, you keep planting those seeds, despite the fact you may not be getting any type of response.
You still nurture them.
You still nurture them. Thank you. That's the right.
You're welcome.
So, okay, I'm done.
Okay, so to piggyback off of the one thing that Jason said, if you say you're going to do something, if you say, hey, I'm going to follow up with you in 3 days or a week or a month, just stay true to your word. Write it down in a calendar, wherever it's going to help remind you. Put it in your phone right away, but make sure you follow up when you say you're going to follow up, because they might not remember or they might remember, but either way, you need to have that integrity and be that responsible that you're following up when you say you will. Another thing that I wanted to mention is be authentic. You know, be who you are, follow up in whatever way is comfortable for you and with that relationship that you have with that person. Because, you know, we're in a relationship business, so you need to have relationships with the people you're talking to. So one of my ways to kind of indirectly follow up with people is, I'll just keep casual conversation going, whether it's through Messenger or text or, in person, not always about Plexus, but I'm keeping that door open. I'm maintaining that relationship and keeping it open because at some point or another, Plexus is a big part of my life and I'm passionate about it and they know that. So at some point or another, they will bring it up or it will naturally come up in conversation. So don't think that every conversation and every interaction has to be about Plexus. However, if they, ask you a question about Plexus or inquire about it for a family member or if it might help with a certain disease, that's a great way to, hey, I was thinking about getting started on the triplex to really just kind of get my gut health in order. I have a lot of sinus infections I'm always getting. Then that's a great thing to, bring up next. Like, hey, how have you been feeling? I remember you said, you get a lot of sinus infections. Are you doing okay with that? So you don't really have to bring up Plexus, but bring up those past conversations. Because again, that shows that you're listening to them. Because a lot of the trainings I've listened to, especially Plexus related, we need to listen to people when we're talking to them. Don't have a conversation with them and be so concerned on what you're going to say next that you're not hearing what they're saying. Make sure you're hearing what they're saying and what they're communicating to you because you need to put that value in them. They need to know that you care about them.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Listen to understand, not to respond.
That's what I was trying to say in more words than that. So indirect methods of following up that's what I call it. But really, it's just commenting on people's posts on Facebook, having that casual conversation, doing things to keep those doors open. Going back to what I said about being authentic, some people I have a very laid back, joking kind of relationship with them. So my follow up might be like, dude, did you listen to the video yet? But I won't say that to everybody. So you really have be who you are. And if that's how that relationship is, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't say that to, my mother-in-law. So just make sure, you're tailoring it to your relationship, but also to who you are in that relationship. One other acronym that I came across that I really thought was awesome is HEAR, as in listening, HEAR. So the H.
Just in case you guys can't spell, that's HEAR, just so everybody's on the same page.
Okay, so right down here vertically, the H stands for humility because, like I said, you need to put value on them and listen to them. And you have to have empathy and humility also. You have to humble yourself to, be able to put them first. So humility. E stands for engage people. A lot of people think of me as an extrovert, but it is not an easy thing for me to continually engage people. I don't like to have a lot of conversations all the time. Sometimes I just like it short and sweet and to the point. Other times I might want to have conversations, but that's not who I am 100% of the time. So, I really try and make a conscious effort to engage people as much as possible. And it's a practice thing. It doesn't come that naturally to me, believe it or not. Some people it does. I think Denise is very good at engaging people. But we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. But if that's something that isn't a strong suit for you, that's okay. You can work at it. But you definitely want to engage people however you can and just practice at it. A is for authenticity. So you want to be authentic. You need to be true to who you are and how this business works for you. And the R stands for respond whenever possible. So like Denise was saying, if it's someone that continually is hitting questions at you, don't wait 2 days to respond to them. Respond as soon as you can. If it's someone, I actually recently turned off the notifications on my Facebook Messenger because I felt like Plexus was just running my full day because I have such type A personality when it comes to responding to things. I can't have numbers popping up on my phone, my email, my messenger. I can't see the numbers. I need to make it go away. But then I can't read something and not respond to it. So I actually needed to turn off the notifications and set a time during the day to go in and respond. So my point being that responding is a very important thing. You don't for example, really quick, Jason and I used to have a joint Facebook account back when I first started Plexus. Yeah. And I had a big customer base right away, but I would get all these PMs from people. And Jason, just being curious, would open up the PM and read it just because he liked to live vicariously through my Plexus business. Literally, he was just curious. But then I wouldn't know that it was there. And then the other party sending it had a red receipt, and then I never responded. So that just irritated me beyond belief, because it's Jason, they're thinking I read this and I never responded. I didn't even know it was there. So, and that's just me. I have to respond right away. If I read something, I have to give a response, probably because I'll forget about it, but it's just my OCD, I guess. But definitely, make responding a priority. So however it works best for you, setting time aside every day, whatever works, I would just say at least on a daily basis, make time to respond to inquiries and people that you're following up with, because you need to be sure if this is your business, if you want it to grow, you need to nurture it. You need to make sure that people know that you're putting them in some sort of a priority. It doesn't mean let it rule your life and respond immediately all the time, but make sure you're making them a priority. So that's the acronym for HERE: humility, engage people, be authentic, and respond whenever possible. Yeah, and the one other thing I wrote a note of, Denise was talking about the Diamond documentaries. We actually, from another chat thread that I'm in, one of the ladies put together a running list of Diamond documentaries tailored to specific professions, or pastor's wife, or teacher, or special ed mom. So if anyone would like that list, I'd be happy to share it with them. It's a nice thing just to keep in your toolbox. And then if you're looking for a Diamond documentary for a specific person, you just can go right back to that and refer to it, and, copy and paste the link, and there you go. So, all right. So I will, Denise, did you have anything else you wanted to say? I'm sorry. What did you say?
Yeah, I said just one thing. I just thought of a tip that I actually am going to be doing. I'm waiting on my new catalogs to get here, because I went through all my old ones when I came away as prizes last week.
Nice.
But, I was going to yay! All of you got those. So anyway, but I was going to send a catalog to some of my past customers that have stopped using product or stopped buying from me. I was going to send them a catalog with a little handwritten note in the next week or so, and letting them know, have something tangible in their hand that they can see. Some of the new products that we have, a lot of them maybe only tried one or two things at the time and then stopped. So that was an idea I had. If you could use that, go for it. But that's just something that I'm going to use as kind of a follow-up tool, is to send a catalog and a little handwritten note to some past customers to see if I can get them back on board taking our products again.
I love that idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so I will stop recording now, and then we will take questions.